Hare Krishna. So I'm grateful to be here with you after almost 2 months. And today and tomorrow I'll be speaking. So I'll be talking about the broad topic of perceiving the nature of the soul. Now, here we are in the 7th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in chapter 8, where Prahlad's life story is evolving, and now here Prahlad has become a teacher while he is still a student. He's a student, but he has become like an unappointed teacher. Now, unappointed not in the sense that he's been disruptive, but he just emerged as a natural leader for the other co-students who are curious. He is not disrespectful or disrespectful, as we will see that he is respectful whenever his teachers ask him or talk with him. But he's not, in the name of being respectful, he's not being naive or weak. So here, in his teachings in chapter 8, in 7.8, he explains why his behavior is so different from the behavior of everyone else. So, generally, most people, they start with a view and then they go toward a world view. What that means is, say, if there's someone observing us, and say this is we and these are others. When they observe us, first they observe our view. And if they find what they view interesting, then they become interested in the world view. So the view means, I'm talking about what they see, how they observe us. Interesting world view, then they become interested. Interesting view, then they become interested in the world view. So many times when the question comes up, what is the key to getting people attracted toward Krishna, to inspiring them to become devotees? There are many factors, but one key factor is that the person presenting bhakti should be, to use contemporary language, cooler than the person whom the audience has been previously following. Or at least in some way, if not cooler, at least the person should be interesting. So it is not, most people are not attracted by philosophy itself. So it is, we could say, first people look at the behavior and then they look at the beliefs. So Prahlad's behavior has been extraordinary. So by the same token, Prahlad's friends, they are looking at Prahlad and they are saying, hey, why are you so different from us? How are you so fearless? Why are you not adopting the view that our teachers are teaching? And now children could just be mischievous, but they can clearly see that Prahlad is not just being mischievous. Prahlad is different and also is fearless. And his so they want to know. And while telling about the world view that is animating him, he is giving Atma Gyan. So as a part of the worldview, he'll talk about many things within the worldview that he's going to give. One major part of it is Atma Gyan, self-awareness, self-understanding. So Srila Prabhupada elaborates on how we can infer the existence of the soul by talking about anvayate kere itere kena. So these are standard methods which I talk about in scripture. So now with respect to the Atma, there are many things which we could know. The existence of the soul, then we can understand the nature of the soul. So just like with respect to God, the first step is to understand the existence of God. But then okay, God exists, but then we want to understand what is the nature of God. How does God function? What is the nature of His personality? That is also very important for us to know. So, now, in our Discover Yourself and other places, we talk about the existence of the soul quite frequently. That's why I won't repeat those arguments over here. We will start from there itself, but we'll focus on perceiving the nature of the soul. By nature, what do we mean? How do we know the nature of a person? The nature is often associated with the features. Features, functions. So, whenever we want to understand something, we look at its features. What all its features? What all does it do? What are its characteristics? So today we'll try to focus on the features of the sun, and tomorrow on the soul, and tomorrow we'll focus on the functions of the soul. And we will also talk about the nature of the super soul as a part of the discussion, slightly today and little more tomorrow. So we know the Atma is Sat, Chit, Ananda. So the Atma has these three characteristics. And these three characteristics can also actually be perceived in the way we function, in the way we seek to live. So we can say that the Sat aspect, which means existing. So we could say this is what creates within us the natural urge for living. We exist, the soul exists, and that's why we have a very strong urge to live. The Chit aspect leads to the urge or the longing for learning. Because we are conscious, we are eager to learn. We are eager to grow. The Ananda aspect, we can seek Anand from various things, but the deepest Anand comes from the reciprocation of love. Even the Lord seeks that love, that's why Eko Bahusyam, the one becomes many. So let's explore these three characteristics. We have these three longings. And these three longings, the longing for living, the longing for learning, and the longing for loving, these three actually can point toward the existence of something beyond the body, beyond matter. Now, let's see how that happens. Basically, if we look at the self, at the self is multi-level. There is the body, and beyond that there is the soul. Now in between there is the mind, but we'll keep a minimalist model over there. The body includes the gross body and subtle body. Now the body is studied primarily through biology, and the soul is studied primarily through spirituality. So now, when we look at ourselves, we start with our body. When we look at anyone else, we start with their body. And then we try to understand the nature of the person we were. So we go inward from the external toward the internal. So at a biological level, what do we see? So now at a biological level, every living being, the urge for living is there, and that's why survival is so important. That urge to survive is deeply rooted in the living beings. So indeed, characteristic existence is characterized by the struggle for existence, a struggle for survival. Now we may say that this is simply a biological feature. Yes, it is a biological feature, but is it simply a biological feature? Is there something more to it? In the Upanishads, there is a fascinating story about which involves Indra, who is the head of the Devtas, and Virochan, who is the head of the Asuras. Both of them seek knowledge, and they seeking knowledge, they go to Brihaspati. And they ask Brihaspati certain questions. And Brihaspati tells them that, okay, I'll answer your questions, but you perform some tapasya. So they try to serve him. And they serve him for some time. They ask Brihaspati, please tell me, what is the nature of the self? Who am I really? What is it that is at my core? So Indra and Brihaspati, after they do some seva to their guru, they are told, go to a lake and look at what you see in the lake. And they behold their form. And Brihaspati tells them that what you see as a reflection in the lake, that what you see is the self. Now, when both of them hear this, okay, our Guru has enlightened us, they start leaving. Now, Virochan goes away, thinking, oh, I went to the Gurukul, I learned, now I'm leaving. But as Indra is about to leave, he starts thinking, hey, the reflection I see in a river, can that really be me? That reflection keeps changing. And if the water shifts a little bit, the reflection shifts. But he starts thinking that the body is changing. So can that really be me? He says that the body changes, but no, I have changed, but there is something which is unchanging also. So he comes back and he says, can you tell me more about this? This doesn't seem to be the full answer. And Brihaspati is pleased. He smiles. A ghost of a smile comes on his face. He looks with sharp yet approving eyes towards Indra. And he says, if you want to know more, then you have to perform more tapasya. And he sends Indra to do further tapasya and further seva. And when they do that, when he does that, then after some time he comes back and he says that, when you close your eyes, and now it's an elaborate story, and I'm putting the story in very simplest terms over here, but the broad contours are similar. So he says, okay, when you close your eyes and you think of your thoughts, the thoughts that you see inside you, those thoughts are who you are. The whole world is shaped by the thoughts inside you. Your vision of the world, your perception, what you seek, what you achieve, It is all shaped by the thoughts inside you. So the thoughts inside you are who you really are. So basically, he's starting from the body, then he's going to the mind. And he says, okay, he's happy. And he's about to go, but again he becomes thoughtful. And then he says, wait a minute. If I am the thoughts inside me, but these thoughts also keep changing. One thought is present there, tomorrow another, or today, tomorrow another thought is present. So which of these thoughts is really me? Just as the world outside changes, in fact the thoughts inside change even more. So as he's thinking, basically, living is the feature of the body. The body wants to live. But even biologists who are hardcore biologists, they understand the body is not just like a biological machine. We are not just biological robots. Because we constantly seek to keep learning. So now that capacity to learn, that is the urge to live, the urge to learn, the urge to love, all of them ultimately come from the soul. But the point is here that we often seek to learn about things that are not necessary for the survival of our body. We naturally learn those things. But often the question comes up that Satchit Ananda is the characteristic of the Atma, and the Atma is essentially the same in all species. Then why is the human species considered human form is special? Why is it special exactly? So it is because we say that because it affords us the opportunity for self-realization. But how does the human form afford us the opportunity for self-realization? What is so special? Is it the brain structure? Is it so it is the anatomy or the physiology of the body? But then we can basically say that the human body is made of the same biological substance as an animal body. We could say, okay, our brain substance is much more complex. But is that what differentiates? Just because we have a more developed brain, that's why we are capable of spiritual contemplation and spiritual pursuit? Or is there something more to it? Now, is the difference in the anatomy or physiology of the body? Is it difference in the soul? Well, how can the difference be in the soul? Because the soul is the same. And najayate mriyate va kadachin. That the soul cannot be destroyed, the soul cannot even be changed. The soul is unchanging. In 2.25, Krishna talks about how avikari, that none of the vikaras that affect the body, they affect the soul. So, if the body essentially is the same in the human form, essentially in terms of biological components, as in animal forms, and the soul is also the same in its essential nature, then what differentiates the human body, making it special? So, the biological substance that makes the human body is similar to what it makes in the human body, the same. And the spiritual essence is also the same. So where exactly is the difference that makes the human body special? That difference lies primarily in the extent of coverings that either permit or prevent the soul's nature from manifesting in the body and through the body. So yes, the extra brain substance that we have does make a difference. But it is like, if you give a dog, we can give a dog a phone. A dog, if it is given a phone, no, whether the dog is given a $300 phone, some normal phone you give them, or we give them a $3,000 phone. Now, is it going to make any difference? The dog really doesn't know how to use the phone. Now it can accidentally press some buttons and do something. But the dog actually does not know how to use the phone. So, this is a problem. So similarly for the soul, if it were, the body is all that is different, the brain is different, but for an intelligent person, there's a difference between a $300 phone and $3,000 phone. There may be some more features, and those features can be used. And if somebody really doesn't know much about the features of the phone, even if you don't consider a dog, if there's an untrained human being, so all that this human being knows is that a phone is used for making calls. So they're just going to make calls with the $300 phone or $3,000 phone. So yes, so similarly, it is not, this human body is more sophisticated. So the animal body is like the $300 phone. The human body is like this $3,000 phone. There's a difference, no doubt. Human body is more sophisticated. But that itself does not make the difference. The soul is the same. The human body essentially is the same. Its features are more. But the interface between the two is different. The layers of covering that are caused to be around the soul, they are lesser in the human body. And thus, that's what, see, while all living beings, or all beings want to live. Now, living is characteristic of all beings. To some extent, this is true for all living beings. Learning is also a characteristic for all living beings. But the thing is that in animals, actually learning is only for living. Animals generally learn enough so that they can survive. Now we may say, but animals do certain things which seem to be far more than what is required for survival. Say peacock has a magnificent set of feathers which come out when it dances. There are birds which make very complicated nests. But they may not need that much level of complexity of nests just for protecting their babies. Then eggs first and then their baby birds. Maybe true, maybe not. Maybe they're, biologically speaking, in their particular environment, maybe they need that level of nest. But even if we assume that they don't, or even if we assume they do, either way, the point is the birds are primarily concerned about learning how to survive. There may be beauty and artistry in what the bird's bodily features are, or its functional dwellings are. But the birds are not doing it primarily for the purpose of beauty or for some other higher purpose. It's for living. There are courtships, there are courting dances where one bird may dance so that a male bird may dance so that it attracts a female bird, or a female bird may sing a beautiful song to attract a male bird. So all that is there. But that is what? Ultimately for living. If I don't live, my genes should live on. So our form, our species should continue. So in humans, however, this learning that is there is not just for living. The learning, it is for living, of course, but it is also for more. Now for more, what is this more? It is for bringing meaning to living. We seek for our existence to have value, and therefore we ask philosophical questions. That Brahma Jigyasa, that is not possible in the in the animal body, because the soul has the capacity to learn, but in the animal body the covering is such that there is not much potential available, manifest for the learning to happen and to grow beyond what is required for living. Human beings often learn many things which are not immediately required for our survival. So, this is where our potential for spiritual growth is there. So, the nature of the soul is perceived that if we are simply biological creatures designed for surviving and reproducing, then why would we want to spend elaborate time and energy seeking to know things that are not really required for survival? So when we study philosophy, when we basically seek meaning to our life, the pursuit of meaning is not really necessary for survival, for a basic level of survival, for biological survival. But it is that when people lose a sense of meaning in their lives, that's when their existence starts becoming so deeply pointless for them. They start thinking, why am I even living? And in life, there are different kinds of losses. There is a loss of means. The means could be wealth, means could be reputation, means could be health, and all these are problematic. But a far more problematic loss is the loss of meaning. What is the point even of living? When that comes up, then that's when the person goes towards even self-destruction. So the point I'm making over here is something very significant, that there are means of living and there is the meaning of living. Now we want to learn about the means of living, but we also want to learn about the meaning of living. See, the second meaning, second level, this meaning of living is so much more important that for the sake of meaning, people may sometimes even give up the means. Sometimes. Normally, people need the means and then they will seek the meaning. Like sometimes people say that, what philosophy can a poor person who is starving understand? That may be true. They need food. Of course, everybody needs food. But once a person has food, then the pursuit of meaning becomes so much more important, and a person may even forego the means. If somebody's sense of meaning is in their protecting their country, then they may be ready to risk their life and become a martyr for the sake of protecting their country, because they've got the meaning. And for the sake of meaning, the means can also be sacrificed. So, Sat is one feature of the Atma which makes us want to live. But Chit is another feature of the Atma, and that Chit makes us want to learn. We are conscious, we want to learn how do things function in the world. And what do we want to learn for? We want to learn so that we can grow. We can find meaning in our life. Now that brings us to the last part. Now, like that, Brahaspati is again approached by Indra, and Indra finally, Indra is told again perform tapasya. And then he goes on. There are other stages also which we will discuss in tomorrow's session. He says, okay, when you sleep, when you are in deep sleep, at that time, what you experience, that is who you are. But then he says that in sleep I dream, I experience various dreams. Sometimes those dreams disappear. But what really is there at that time? So there is a certain kind of thoughts which exist when we are closing our eyes, when we are awake and closing our eyes, or when sleeping and we are with our dreams, which are also some kind of thoughts. So he says, finally, Brihaspati says, yes, you have passed the test now. You understand that you are not your perceptions, you are not your thoughts. You are the thinker of your thoughts. So we as souls, we are not thoughts, our thoughts. We are the thinker of our thoughts. Thinker means we as spiritual beings, we use our thoughts, and using those thoughts we think. So that's where now if we consider, our thinking is so important that sometimes once we find some meaning, even the means can be sacrificed. So chit is so important that the sat aspect can sacrifice. The soul is always sat. The soul always wants to live. But when somebody is a martyr for a cause, what is happening? Now that person may still think I am the body, but the sat aspect, what is happening is that the sat means wants us to live. So we are not talking about the nature of the soul as we perceive it. Because the soul is eternal, we want to live eternally, and that's why we want to avoid death. But the soul is not just eternally passively existent. The soul is curious, is chit, and with the curiosity the soul looks for meaning. And if there is meaning in something, then the soul is ready to even risk life for that. So sat becomes important in chit. Here living becomes less important than learning. Learning about the meaning of life. Actually, it's not that simple. Let's complete this point. We know that chit is important, but more important is ananda. And ananda comes by loving. Ananda can come in many different ways, no doubt. But the deepest ananda, the deepest joy comes through loving, through reciprocating love with others. And ultimately, the one object with whom we can reciprocate love eternally is our Lord, Krishna. And thus, connecting with Him is the ultimate object of love, and that brings the ultimate ananda. Now if we consider, going back to the earlier point, that people find meaning, say somebody, a patriot, finds meaning in serving the country. And they may become so dedicated to the country that they may be ready to leave their lives. And why does that happen? Because there is that joy. When our learning is important, but loving is even more important. What does it mean? There's the British politician says that he says, England, because of you I've had so many headaches and heartbreaks. Because of you I have spent so many restless days and sleepless nights. England, because of you I've lost my health and I have lost my peace of mind. And yet, despite it all, England, I love you. So the idea is that when we are learning about something, we can always learn things which may not be the most complimentary. There are movies and pop songs where I say, I hate so many things about you. I hate this and I hate this, I hate this. But the thing I hate most is that I can't hate you. Although I hate all this about you, I can't hate you. So like that, when we are seeking only learning, there are many philosophical problems that can come up. Okay, if God exists, then why is there evil? And why do bad things happen to good people? Why do bad things happen to me? That All that is valid, those are valid questions. But Bhishma Pitamaha, what does he tell Yudhishthira Maharaj? That the Lord's plan cannot be understood, but the Lord can be loved. So basically, when we are seeking learning, understanding God is important, no doubt, but far more important than understanding God is actually experiencing God. Once we experience Krishna, when we feel His sweet, sublime presence, when we relish His love, then even if we can't understand the specifics of what He is doing and why He is doing it, it doesn't matter. And so this understanding God can happen through analysis. And analysis is no doubt important, but experiencing God happens through service. And service is even more important than analysis. It is this, that's why Sevon Mukhe Jivvadav Svayameva Spuratyadaha. So that loving aspect, the ananda that we seek, that is so great that even if the learning aspect is impeded, even if the living aspect is impeded, doesn't matter. A devotee is normally, living beings struggle for survival. But a devotee is ready to lay down the life for the sake of the Lord. That Rakhe Krishna Mare Krishna Rakhe Ke. That, living is not all that important. Now, of course, as the soul we keep living. But the point is, these three aspirations for living, for learning and longing, and how they manifest, they point to these three deep features of the soul. And these three can be explained to some extent on the basis of biology. But biology cannot explain everything. The nature of the longing. See, biology can explain loving between, say, males and females and progenitors and progeny, for example. The loving between males and females is so that procreation can happen. The loving between progenitors and progeny, between the parents and the children in whichever species, that can be explained through the fact that living has to go on. But why do we have an urge for something beyond our biology, beyond our surroundings? Why do we seek some ultimate meaning, some ultimate reality? Why do we want to love that? That love is not explained based on our biology alone. And that points ultimately to our spirituality. So in this way, each one of us can actually, by observing ourselves and observing people around us, can infer the characteristics of the soul. So I'll summarize what we discussed today. Our topic is perceiving the nature of the soul. And within that, we discuss especially the features of the soul, the features of the Satchitananda. So we discussed 4 main points today. The first point was the context. The context is that Prahlad is speaking to his co-students, and generally most people go from worldview. They don't go immediately to worldview. They don't want to know what is our worldview. They go from view to worldview. That when they find the view interesting, okay, that means what they see about us they find interesting, then they become interested in our worldview. So our behavior should be such that it triggers curiosity among people to want to know the world. That is what happened with Prahlad, and he is answering questions accordingly. Then we discussed about how the 3 features of the soul when we talk about the nature here itself, so from behavior, the person starts looking at the belief, at the world conception. So when he hears that is talking about Atma. I want to know about it. Something like that is there. So we discussed the Sat aspect correlates with the living, the longing to live within us. And this is there in all life forms. And thus, a basic level of the conception of the Atma, or the Atma is present in all life forms. So then the question comes, why is human form special? The body is similar but more sophisticated. The soul is the same. So it is not the sophistication of the body. That sophistication I'm talking about is cerebral sophistication. Physically, many other species are more sophisticated than humans also. So neither of these is actually the answer. It is, what makes the difference is the link that is possible. The link leaves more openings that normally most bodies, they cover the self-awareness or even the potential for self-awareness. Jnana, Vijnana. The destroyer, Vinashanam, that lust can destroy, self-destructive craving can destroy both of these. So, but the link has more openings. In the human form, a person can perceive more and more. So that's where we discussed. The second aspect was, the third point is the Chit aspect makes us want to be learning. And learning not just about living. We want to learn about living, but about the meaning of living. That becomes much more important. And for the sake of meaning, people may even be ready to give up the life itself. And that's where Ananda. The Ananda can come from many things, but the deepest Ananda comes from loving. And in the souls, in the case of a spiritually realized person, the Ananda of loving comes from loving the Lord. And that is such a great Ananda that the person doesn't care for anything more. So, loving other members of our species, for that may be the longing for that comes from our biology. But loving an ultimate reality, a God who cares for us, who wants to be with us, that comes only through spirituality, that comes only through spiritual guides. So when we have such spiritual guides, then we all can grow toward Krishna and ultimately attain his eternal embrace. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for such a wonderful class, Prabhuji. What an knowledge. Wonderful, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. And you have time, right, Prabhuji, for questions?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah. Sri Ishopanishad Mataji, please go ahead with your question, Mataji.
I'm trying to unmute. Hare Krishna. Thank you so very much. Your analogy is just wonderful, beautiful. My takeaway from that is that I love the way you broke down the Sat Chit Ananda. And the Atma is the soul. Sat existing creates the urge for living. Chit is the reciprocator for that urge. And it just made me understand so clearly. But I'm trying to find what I wrote. I wanted to share what I wrote from my understanding. We use our thoughts to think, okay? Because the soul is eternal and it always wants to live. So that's why when you brought to the attention about this urge to want to live, and you said the bottom line for me was that love is the corporate there. The reason we want to live is because of our love. We love.
Yes.
And that's that spark that's within us naturally. It's there regardless of whatever. We just have to bring it out. Is that my understanding of?
Yes, definitely. See, the love, the purpose of living and learning, it culminates in loving. So we can say at one level, living leads to learning and learning leads to loving. At the same time, you can also say that loving also leads to living more fully. It also leads to learning more deeply. So ultimately it's loving. But then the point is that because these three are features of the soul, sometimes only one of these can be manifested. So if only living is manifested, that means the person is just eating and maybe just playing video games and just having virtual sensual pleasures and things like that, then that living actually becomes meaningless. So it's like living can be reduced only to the level of the body. Living alone. Then learning alone. Some people can become very philosophical or very much they get caught in the head. I want to learn about this, I want to learn about that. So that can be only to the level of the head. So such people can be walking encyclopedias, but they can be living failures. Because, they may know a lot, but they may not be able to have much social skills, they may not be able to maintain relationships. That's not very healthy again. And if it's loving alone, the love can be directed towards many things. So the people can become sentimental. So there are many, say for example, romantic movies and romantic novels where people are ready to lay down, to die for each other. Or sometimes people in more horror kind of novels, a frustrated lover can kill the person who said no to them. So basically, when loving is, so bhakti is not just loving. Bhakti is loving that is grounded in living and learning. That's a buddha bhava samanvitaha. So while love is the ultimate, but love alone, it's not just love alone. It is ananda which is grounded in sat and chit. So that's why sat and chit, sat is at the Brahman platform, chit is also at the Brahman, chit is beyond the Brahman platform. Anand is, the Anand from loving is beyond that platform. Satya. So that's definitely loving is the highest, but it's not that it is disconnected from the others.
Jai. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Shri Shopan Mataji, thank you so much. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Very nice explanation about that. Bhakti should not be sentimental, but both knowledge should be there in Bhakti also, so that we can have the good process in Bhakti. Thank you for that, Prabhuji. So the next is Shivakumar Prabhuji. Can you go ahead?
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna Prabhuji and Dr. Rams Prabhu. Prabhu, one question from today's class, Prabhu. I kind of have two sub-questions, Prabhu, both pointing to the same question. Now, when we talk about the body, mind and soul, Prabhu, the first question, Prabhu, when I look at an animal body, right, versus when I look at a animal dead body, versus when I look at a human dead body, versus when I look at a dead body who I am known to him, I kind of go through different emotions, Prabhu, and to an extent that it also kicks in the smashana vairagya and things like that. So although theoretically I know that it's the same soul that's in all three examples that I gave, the impact that it creates within me seems to be different to the degree of the species connectivity, or whether I know the person or not, to what extent I know the person. That's one thing, Prabhu. And the second question also related to that, when we say the love, it seems at some level, I think the manifestation of love also seems to be confined to the body and mind in this world. In the sense that though I philosophically understand I am the soul and others are also the soul, the love and care that I show to others or others show to me can only be manifested in terms of body and mind again. So I just wanted to kind of understand.
Okay.
It seems that the soul itself is confined to these buckets of body and mind in this world.
Yes, correct. The soul is confined to the buckets of the body and mind as long as the soul is unenlightened and attached. So, when and that itself is not a bad thing, at least as a progressive step, just like for parents to be attached to their children. A newborn baby, it's so tender. A mother may actually want to care for the soul, but the mother has to care for the child's body also. Isn't it? And the child's consciousness develops. The mother will care for the soul also. So caring for the body, we cannot really separate the two. When we care for a person, we care for the complete person. I cannot say I care for your soul, I don't care for your body, I don't care for your mind. So, but the thing is that if we care only for the body and the mind, it becomes a problem. So, society, culture, education need to help us to make our love more and more holistic. Otherwise, it will remain fragmented. So, now going back to the previous point about the degree of love that we feel for when we see an animal's dead body or a human dead body or a loved one or some familiar human being's dead body. That's different because of the degree of emotional investment that is there in that particular living being. Now, there are some churches which actually do funeral services even for dogs and cats, because their parishioners are so attached to their dogs and cats that when their parishioners die, when the parishioners' pets die, then they want to make a service for that. And the service so now sometimes more people come for the funeral of a pet than they come for the funeral of a human being. So how much grief a person experiences does not necessarily depend on just the species. Sometimes a person may be more attached to a dog than they might be attached to their friend, or some acquaintance, or some colleague, or even some family member for that matter. So our consciousness, how much it is invested, that determines the extent of our emotion. And that also will determine the kind of thoughts that arise within us. So, see, loving, for example, recently when India lost the World Cup final, there are some people who actually committed suicide. There's no death over there, in the sense that it was just a match that was lost. None of the cricketers ended their lives. But what happened, the soul's consciousness can get invested so much in the idea of this particular game and this particular tournament and this particular team, that the person may feel if this doesn't happen, then what is the point even of living? So the amount of emotional investment can vary from person to person, and the amount of grief that we experience, it can lead to frustration or it can lead to renunciation, whichever way it is. That depends on how much you have been invested originally. Does that answer your questions?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Prabhu, just to confirm, Prabhu, so would that be a right understanding to say that the way we manifest love in terms of love and care for others, or we expect from others, should be for the mind and body, but on the basis of the philosophy that we are spirit souls? Would that be a right...
No, I won't say it should be for the mind and the body. It should be for the full person, not just the mind and the body. It's not that the soul is the basis and then the love is only for the body and the mind. It's rather, it is for the entire person, but the person, we can say it should be primarily for the soul, that is true, but at this present level we cannot separate. So it's need based. If a person is sick, then the primary thing that we need is arrange some medicines for them. And then if they are very disturbed or something, then calm them down, sit down with them. and then maybe after that talk some Krishna Katha with them. So it's like when we offer care, love and care, when we offer to the entire person. And the entire person means the body, mind and soul. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Janava Thakurani Mataji. Thank you, Prabhu, for a wonderful class. There are two questions. I'll start with the first one. We talked about that we are the observer, we are not our thoughts, we are the thinker. So the question was, which faculty is responsible for feelings and emotions, and how do they correlate with what we are thinking and being the thinker? So how do we understand who's responsible for the emotions and feelings?
Okay. See, thinking, feeling, willing are all features that are associated with the subtle body. And ultimately, nothing happens without the soul. So, any action is there. For that, there's a tool required for the action. But then, along with the tool, we could say there is a user required also, a user of the tool. So for example, when we blow a whistle, there has to be a person that is there, and then there is the whistle. So from where is the whistle sound coming? It is coming from the whistling sound coming. It is coming from the whistle. But the whistle itself doesn't produce that sound. There is a person required. So like I am speaking right now, I need my voice box. If my voice box is damaged, I won't be able to speak to you. But the voice box is not producing the sound. So the tool could be the whistle and the user could be the person. The tool could be the voice box and the user, in this case the person, ultimately is the soul. And similarly, the subtle body could be the tool and the user would be the soul. Now sometimes thoughts in the sense of reasoning, analysis, that is associated with the intelligence, and emotions, feelings, desires, they are associated with the mind. So we could say, you can use the word thought in many different senses. Thought can be used as the basic unit of subtle action. That means everything that happens in the subtle body, that begins with a thought. But then thought can refer to this also. So this is, I just got a thought. When you're using it, that means something just popped up within me. So, but then we also use the word thought in I have given this a lot of thought. That means I have analyzed it, I have deliberated it. So this is the discerning, deliberating, deciding. So this is slightly different or significantly different. So this is associated, this basic unit of subtle action, this is associated with the entire subtle body. But this kind of discernment is associated primarily with the intelligence. So in that sense, the foundational idea of thought, that is associated with the subtle body. So then thoughts can grow into emotions. Then thoughts can grow into the reasoning faculty. I just got a thought and I felt something. I got a thought and then I analyzed it. So once we get a thought, that basic unit of thought that can be developed through feelings, that can be developed through analyzing also. So that feeling is normally associated with the mind. The analyzing, that is associated with the intelligence. And then that's how the thoughts develop further. Okay?
Okay. So using this as basis, the second question was that we talked about we have this longing and yearnings.
We have these?
We have these longings and yearnings, right? All the time that we are seeking. We are always seeking.
Yes.
We are yearning or looking for something. So I see that we talked about colleague relation or family relation or husband-wife relation or child-parent relation. So in all these relations, we are subtly trying to seek for that, from that learning yearning to loving yearning, right? So in this platform, material platform, we are always yearning, and we translate that yearning with these relationships, like all these kind of relationships. So
yes.
What I have noticed is that when we are happy in a relationship, any relationship, we think that we are happy. Whereas when the same relationship gives you some suffering or disappointment, you are not happy. And you again go into that phase of yearning and longing. So at what point that gets satisfied? And how do we transition? Like, we are always transitioning from living, learning, and loving. We talked about experiencing the sublime existence of God or loving God.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to correlate how do we understand this. Because if I'm happy in a relationship, I will say, okay, now I'm happy, I'm satisfied. But at another point in time, I'm not happy. So I'm still seeking and yearning.
Yeah, that's natural, because there are two ways of looking at this. That there is vidyam cha yastad vedo bhayam saha. That we need knowledge of the material world, we need knowledge of the spiritual world. And both of those can help us to succeed in life. So at a basic level, at the material world, there is distress. The distress can range from, it can just plain dissatisfaction. Okay, things are not as good as I would like them to be. But from dissatisfaction, it can even go to devastation. Everything that I lived for has been taken away from me. But basically there is distress in our life. Now when we try to relieve distress, it's like, if we consider distress to be like sickness. So when somebody has sickness, then there are two kinds of, there is pain medication and there is curative medication. So both are required. So basically our material arrangements, they are like pain medication. And there are our spiritual alignment with Krishna. That is like the curative medication. Now the pain medication, when it is working, at the time we feel that maybe I don't even need the curative medication. But when the pain medication is not working, then we start thinking, what is wrong? What do I need? The ideal situation is when we understand how the pain medication works and we appreciate it when it works. But we don't let ourselves come under the illusion thinking that I don't need anything more. So a good doctor doesn't want the patient to be in pain. And if a pain medication is not working, the doctor will adjust the pain medication dosage so that the pain medication also works. So like that, our material relationships, our material situations, do they give us happiness? Yes, they do. And it is not that we are meant to be miserable over there. But the happiness that comes over there is temporary. Today some things work out, tomorrow the same things may stop working. So we understand that this is a pain medication. It's not the ultimate cure, but it is important in its own place. However, it should not take over the entire place of our life. And when we have that perspective, then we see basically the material arrangement and the spiritual alignment. The pain medication and the curative medication. The ideal situation is these two, they are complements. That means the material alignment plays some part and the spiritual alignment plays a bigger part. But when this is happening, it is good. But when the material arrangement becomes a replacement for the spiritual, that's when it becomes a problem. So, and for most people, if the spiritual alignment is attempted as a replacement for the material arrangement, that is also not going to work, except in exceptional situations. So, for most people, we do need to take care of the material arrangements also. So that's why it's a complementary thing. Both have their value and their place and purpose. Does it answer your question?
Okay, yes. The question was, at what point the soul is satisfied? Is it at the level of self-actualization or self-realization? While we are navigating this temporary nature of relationships, or at what point that happens?
When the soul, when the disease,
even if we are under material arrangement and spiritual alignment journey.
See, when the disease is cured, that's when the patient becomes free from pain, isn't it? So similarly, when our consciousness is invested in, what is the disease? The disease is a misdirection of consciousness. So while our consciousness is misdirected, now we cannot suddenly redirect our consciousness toward Krishna. The misdirection of consciousness is the disease for us. So now, from the misdirection of consciousness, the ultimate cure is the redirection of consciousness. Redirection of consciousness towards Krishna. But the redirection does not happen in one moment. During that time, there is the management of consciousness. Okay, our consciousness investment in the body, our consciousness invested in our family, our consciousness invested in our country. Well, we are functioning in this world. So take care of how our consciousness management invested in those things. Take care of those things so that they don't disrupt us too much, so that there is some broad level of happiness. But ultimately the soul becomes happy when the soul's consciousness is redirected toward Krishna. So once the soul's consciousness is redirected toward Krishna, it's like the soul becomes, if we consider consciousness to be like a ocean, then at the surface of the ocean there might be some waves that come and go. But those waves don't affect us. So even for a pure devotee, there will be dualities at the material level, and the material dualities have some effect. So, but because the ocean is so vast, and the waves of the surface don't affect the depth of the ocean. So this is the vast ocean that is underneath. That is our spiritualized emotions, the spiritually invested in the consciousness. Spiritually invested. So then what happens is, we are not much affected by the material, even if we are present in the material. So then our consciousness, because we are in the material world, so our consciousness may be still materially aware, but at the materially aware consciousness will perceive the ups and downs. Okay? Any last question? Before we start?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Do you have time? More time, Prabhuji?
Yeah,
we have one chat question and also
one last question.
Hand raise. Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. Akshay Das, Prabhuji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. So, I wanted to share my thought process with you, the thoughts I am having. So, basically, I know and probably believe that Krishna has better plans for us than we have for us, right? So, I always pray that something may arise in my life that I had to go back to India and I probably go to Vrindavan Dham and I can just live by doing Madhukari and live under a tree as well. And I just like to give up this material life and things like that, thoughts like that. Even if I hear about someone's death or passing by, I don't usually get sad and even I enjoy sometimes. So even I embrace for the death of my parents, I might not grieve a lot. So am I a psychopath or I'm not able to deal with these thoughts? Are these negative thoughts?
Okay. See, detachment is desirable, but there are certain things which may seem to be detachment, but they're not detachment. So, for example, detachment is not cold-heartedness. Detachment is also not aversion or frustration. So, what is cold-heartedness? It is almost like an incapacity for emotions. A person's emotional capacity has become so deadened that the person no longer experiences emotions. That is not detachment. Aversion or frustration is basically strong negative emotion toward, in this case, toward something material. So, this job is so frustrating, this family life is so frustrating, I just want to give it all up. So, how much is the attraction to Krishna? That is something which is more important. So, if it's this detachment, it's not aversion, frustration. Detachment is also not apathy. So, apathy is just lack of emotion. One just doesn't care. Now, all these are various ways in which a person's emotions may be no longer be expressed. For us, on the spiritual path, detachment is actually a stepping stone toward attachment toward Krishna. So, detachment for us, in that sense, is actually clear-headedness. Clear-headedness means it's more of, there is the capacity for emotions, but it is, we are awareness of where emotions shouldn't be invested, and thereafter where emotions should be invested. And then gradually it is that we transfer our emotions. So, if somebody is, say, not feeling any kind of grief if our parents die, I don't think we should immediately assume that we are detached. It could be that we have become cold-hearted, we have become apathetic, we have become averse, we have become emotionally stunted in one way. There is a story told by a Sri Vaishnavacharya, or a contemporary Sri Vaishnavacharya. The principle is there that a person comes to a guru and says, I think I should take sannyas. He says, why? He says, my wife passed away, I didn't even shed one tear, I think I am detached. So the guru says, go and remarry. He says, why? What are you telling me? He says, your wife is someone you could see, you could interact with. And if you couldn't love her enough so that you cried when she passed away, how are you going to love God whom you can't see and you can't interact with immediately? And how are you going to cry for God? Bhakti is about crying for Krishna. So now this particular anecdote can be understood in many different ways. But the point is that detachment in the sense of cold-heartedness or apathy is not anukul for bhakti. So if you feel a strong urge for going to Vrindavan or something like that, that's good. But it doesn't mean that we have to immediately abandon our family responsibilities. Ultimately, Vrindavan is perceived not just by going physically over there. It is not just by doing Madhukari. Vrindavan is revealed to us by the mercy of the Vaishnavas, by the mercy of Guru. And therefore, if we try to fulfill the will of our Guru in Vrindavan, and beyond Vrindavan also wherever we are, that is what will actually open the higher realities of Vrindavan to us. So that's how we focus on becoming clear-headed. Okay, this is where my emotions should not be invested. This is where my emotions need to be invested. And now how can I transfer my emotions from here to here? It's a gradual incremental process. Then that way we can stably and steadily grow in bhakti. Okay. So thank you very much. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Jai Gaur Premanande.
Thank you so much for the wonderful class. Take care of your health. Let's play our
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you much.
Good morning, Krishna.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol. Thank you. Okay. I didn't sleep at all yesterday night, which was a bit shocking, may not be the best word. Shocking, surprising. I did feel tired or lazy, not lazy, distracted, incapable of clear thinking. When we be incapable of sharp thinking. Still, I did give a nice class. I think I did answer several questions, and I want to keep growing, keep learning, and let's see what happens thereafter. I was planning to speak for 1 hour, and I ended up speaking for 1 hour 20 minutes. Actually, it's 1 hour 30 minutes. It's a long time. grateful that I could speak. And it was an interesting subject that was developed during the course of the talk, and I can see that I am feeling tired right now, and I do need to sleep. Can I crawl like this? Now, how much weight can my knee handle? There is some swelling on when I crawl. I have kept the water bottle far away from me, which was a foolish thing to do. I didn't remember to bring it close to me. While it is a mistake, I'm not sure how serious a mistake it is and how easy it will be to resolve the mistake. But basically at this stage, I am going to take some rest. Maybe a couple of hours of rest would be good. I told Giriraj Prabhu that I would like to talk with him. I don't know how much or how long I can talk with him, but I can definitely try. Actually, do I need to sleep? I definitely need to sleep, no doubt about it. Let me start by thinking about what all can be done. Hey Krishna, please bless me. I'm grateful for every opportunity I've had. I will turn on the light now, turn off the light now. No, definitely not. I want to hear something. I definitely want to hear some things. What is it that I would like to hear? That is a good question. Simple things which can and should be done. Why can't they be done? Why can't someone take it up for doing these things? He said there's no one available. He said he will find someone. He said he will pay, but just paying alone is not enough. Krishna, whenever you send someone, it will be good enough for me. Okay. That's 39%. This definitely needs to be charged now. Let's start with charging what needs to be charged and removing and what doesn't need to be charged. This would come over here. This could go over there into the charging socket. Okay. Good, isn't it? Yeah. If I'm going to have something over here which helps me to sleep, it's better to have the strap, isn't it? Yeah, it's definitely better to have the strap when you sleep, because you don't affect the knee. It's took it out. I don't really have the time or intelligence, presence of mind to search for it now. There it is. Maybe it might be helpful. Maybe it would be helpful to have a like this. Keep it like this. Can I turn it also? Keep it like this so that I can see it from here. I can, I don't know how stable this is going to be. Open. Sleep for 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So I'll make it 15. 15 should be fine. And then that hour. The other one is 8:59. Not bad. Close all and open this after that. Oh, over here. I could put it back over here internally and see how this recording goes afterwards. I could get it in your phone. Where was I doing the audio recording here? Stop and delete. The audio recording is not. I'll try to figure out whether the audio recording is okay. And decide based on that. I don't even have the strength right now to speak anything, isn't it? I don't want this to be here. CC, two devices connected. I want the CC power. Okay, so I'm touching this. This can be spread out. This needs to be spread out more. And once it's spread out, I think it can be inclined more also without too much difficulty. Let us see. I may not be able to read. I agree. Tomorrow same time then? Question mark. I am free now also. Are you free to talk today anytime? Are you free to talk anytime today? Question mark. I am okay overall and I am recovering steadily and will resume my travel tomorrow from Seattle to Toronto. Full stop. I had a minor fall, but it was not a fracture, thankfully. Full stop. The swelling was substantial, but it has gone down by gentle
एक्चुअली से जो अंडरस्टैंडिंग वो मल्टीफोल्ड हो जाती है और कई बार नोट्स बनाने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती, जस्ट टेक अ स्क्रीनशॉट जो आप लिख रहे हो। तो लेकिन मैं देखता हूँ हर लेक्चर में वो अवेलेबल, मतलब जो लाइव लेक्चर दे रहे हो ऑडियंस। हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी, नमस्कार। तो एक रिक्वेस्ट और है कि आप जो यूज करते हो ना राइटिंग के लिए, वाइल टेकिंग लेक्चर, यू ड्रॉ एंड राइट थिंग्स, तो ये मैंने पहले डिस्कस किया था, तो दिस इज सो हेल्पफुल एक्चुअली, इससे अंडरस्टैंडिंग को मल्टीफोल्ड हो जाती है और कई बार नोट्स बनाने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती, जस्ट टेक अ स्क्रीनशॉट जो आप लिख रहे हो। तो लेकिन मैं देखता हूँ हर लेक्चर में वो अवेलेबल, मतलब जो लाइव लेक्चर दे रहे हैं वो ऑडियंस के लिए है, लेकिन जो रिकॉर्डिंग है उसमें वो ठीक से अवेलेबल नहीं होता है, एंड ऑफ कोर्स इट टेक्स टाइम आल्सो फॉर यू कि इसको ऑर्गेनाइज करें। तो इसको विचार कर रहा था, इसका सबसे बेस्ट तरीका ये है तो जो मुझे समझ में आता है कि आप गूगल ड्राइव में एक फोल्डर बना लीजिए, उसमें खाली व्यू परमिशन दीजिए किसी को भी ना, जो भी आप लेक्चर लेते हैं उसकी पीडीएफ फाइल उस गूगल ड्राइव के अंदर डाल दीजिए, सेम नेम से जिस नेम से आप उस लेक्चर को अपलोड करने वाले यूट्यूब में, और उस गूगल ड्राइव का फोल्डर का लिंक जो है वो डिस्क्रिप्शन में परमानेंटली डाल देते हैं, डिफॉल्ट, मतलब बार बार हर लेक्चर में डालने की जरूरत नहीं है, वो डिफॉल्ट आपके डिस्क्रिप्शन में रहेगा जब आप वीडियो अपलोड करेंगे। नाउ सपोज द लिसनर इफ ही रियली वांट्स ही कैन गो इनटू द फोल्डर एंड फाइंड दैट पर्टिकुलर फाइल द लेक्चर इज लिसनिंग टू। तो उससे काफी फायदे होंगे, उसमें आपकी और भी सारी फाइल्स रहेंगी, तो जो भी उस फोल्डर को देखेगा वो बाकी फाइल्स भी देखेगा, उनके नाम भी देखेगा, इट विल मोटिवेटेड टू इवन गेट मोर लेक्चर्स आल्सो, अगर कोई फाइल का नाम अच्छा लगता है या शायद कुछ, और उसमें आपकी मेहनत नहीं रहेगी, इट विल हार्डली टेक 20 to 30 seconds टू सेव दैट पीडीएफ इन दैट फोल्डर। और अगर ऐसा है कि आपको लगता है कि लेक्चर आप इमीडिएट अपलोड नहीं करते हो, उसमें बात करते हो, तो कोई बात नहीं, इस फोल्डर में जब आपने लेक्चर लाइव लिया उसी वक्त थैंक आप जो पीडीएफ है उसको फोल्डर में डाल के छोड़ो, कोई बात नहीं, क्या जा रहा है, मतलब अगर आप अपलोड वीडियो पहले करो बाद में करो उसमें फर्क नहीं पड़ता, जब भी करोगे वो तब आज एक वीडियो से क्या फर्क पड़ रहा है, मतलब जो पीडीएफ फोल्डर है आप उसकी तरह से अपने स्टोरेज की तरह यूज कर सकते हो, तो सारी पीडीएफ उसमें डाल सकते हो, उसमें तो चाहिए किसी एक पीडीएफ देखी तो दूसरी ना देखे या इसको सिर्फ ये देखनी चाहिए वो नहीं देखनी चाहिए, ऐसा नहीं, क्योंकि सारा वो स्टोरेज है, कोई भी उसमें ढूंढने में टाइम लगता है, 10 सेकंड का काम ढूंढ के अपनी पीडीएफ को देख सकता है, लेक्चर के साथ रेफर कर सकता है। तो नॉट ऑल डिवोटीज विल टेक दिस एफर्ट कि वो पीडीएफ ढूंढने करें, लेकिन सिग्निफिकेंट डिवोटीज करेंगे, मतलब मैं करूंगा, और मेरे जैसे शायद डिवोटीज वो भी करेंगे, पीडीएफ ढूंढ के और पीडीएफ रेफर पीडीएफ बाय लिसनिंग दैट क्लास। क्योंकि आप रिसेंट कुछ क्लासेस सुन रहा था, तो आई विश इस पीडीएफ को कितना अच्छा होता, इट विल बी सो हेल्पफुल टू अंडरस्टैंड एंड टेक नोट्स। सो दिस जस्ट सजेशन इफ यू फाइंड दिस अप्रोप्रिएट, और आपको लगता है ऐसे नहीं, इसको ऐसे होना चाहिए, ये ठीक नहीं है, दैट इज आल्सो फाइन, दिस इज जस्ट कमिंग टू माय माइंड, सो आई जस्ट थॉट टू शेयर विद यू। हरे कृष्णा।
Nothing urgent. Full stop. I am recovering steadily and I am resting more, possibly due to the medication. Full stop. Maybe we can catch up when I return back to India in about a month or so.